Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Last week I talked about the nature of the board game industry as a whole. I talked about companies that were struggling to deliver products that they'd promised to make before the pandemic hit, before the shipping crisis escalated beyond repair. I talked about companies that were shutting down or going back to full-time work, and that, as far as I can tell, every single company is facing this question of unexpected costs and facing this question of, are we going to continue making games? Is there profit in the Kickstarter board game model? And every single new creator that I've came in contact with, whether they're some of the biggest campaigns on the platform or small $20, $30, $100,000 campaigns, they're not making money. Across the board, they're not. They're losing money to get you a title in front of you and to hopefully pursue a dream that will elicit or eventually be a career. And that's good and well, and I mean everything I said in that video. I think you should act with compassion and grace, and you should hand over an extra $3 if it helps get your title to you. I think that's accurate. However, as a lot of people acknowledged and pointed out, and as I have argued from the very beginning, both behind the scenes and in front of the camera, there's also this balance point. There's this other side of the coin. When should you be angry at publishers? When is it justifiable to be frustrated and upset and feel like you've been tricked and just engage with the conversation from a sense of fair and correct frustration? We've all been there. At least if you've backed a significant amount of Kickstarters, you certainly have, or at least been adjacent to, if you've been in this space, to projects that have never delivered, which is less common than you would assume, but has certainly happened, to projects ending up in retail before you get your copy, projects that cost an extra arm and a leg when it comes to shipping and delivery, hidden fees, multiple delays, and horrible communication on the publisher's behalf. I've watched communities to this day still descend into continued and growing resentment and frustration around titles that just have not had the professional support, the human support that's required when it comes to Kickstarter. And I think myself and you all have every right to be angry in those situations. So, this video is about the nature of Kickstarter as a platform, how we and how publishers should view our relationship, and when we have a right in that relationship to be pissed off. It's a conversation from the other side. If you expect me to help you, to share grace with you, if you expect me to support whatever extra costs you have around shipping and to fight for you to continue to exist in this space, you have to act in a way that justifies my emotional bandwidth, right? I've already trusted you. I already invested in you. I want the product that you're selling, but at a certain point, it does start to feel like you're taking advantage of me, the consumer. It starts to feel like you treat this like a business relationship, a one-to-one money transaction, and if that's the case, that's fantastic. That's just not what I signed up for. It's not what I signed up for when I read your Kickstarter updates, when I got excited about your stretch goals, when I helped you cross that finish line, when I advertised you on Facebook and Instagram, when I fought for you to have enough people to make this thing come true. I didn't sign up for a business relationship, and neither did every single one of your backers. We signed up to support you, to fight for your company, to encourage you to make this game, and to fund your act of creation, your pursuit of your own dream. We took part in that. We then became partners. By its nature, Kickstarter is a platform that extends risk to a variety of people. We, as the consumer, check boxes that say, hey, you may never get your product. Hey, this is not a pre-order system. Hey, you're putting yourself at risk by doing this. And yet, in the board game industry, we do so time and time again. on new and old content creators, on publishers that have a success run and some that have more hairy conversations. I saw a project fund to an astronomical amount from a publisher that has multiple delays on their first project, has yet to deliver, and has honestly not been the most effective at letting us know why. It's a conversation, and something I think consumers should be wary of, because Kickstarter as a platform extends risk to both parties. You, the publisher, are extending risk by putting your dream out there. You're extending financial risk to you and your household. Like I already said, first-time publishers don't make money, and if you're watching this, you should really question the degree to which you can lose money in the pursuit of your dream. You want to see a game on the table. You want to pursue a career in this hobby space. Kickstarter is an amazing way to start that process, but you're not going to make a profit to start with. And we're running the risk of not getting a good game. If you're a first-time designer, there's a strong chance your game's just okay. Now, every now and then there are games that are incredible, that come out of the woodwork. But we've all backed Kickstarter projects that we wish we hadn't, that we played once and then put up on BGG Marketplace. We've all had games come in that we've been less interested in by the time they've arrived than we were when we ended up supporting and backing them. It's also part of this conversation. I'm guessing that my life will be in a different place in 2 years. And for some reason, I'm still deciding to support you, to invest in you, to hand you my cash, right? To give you an investment in the future, with the knowledge that in 2 years, assuming you don't delay, I may get a chance to play your game. Just a conversation. So, on Kickstarter, let's start off with a conversation about the relationship. I'm an investor in your project. I might only be an investor to the tune of $40 and 3,000 other people, or I might be an all-in pledge, a couple $100. I might be doubling down and fighting for you. I may be an investor because I'm advertising your game, playing it on TTS, teaching and building a community for you, the publisher. I'm not here just buying a good or service, right? And some people are. Some people see it as more of a transactional thing, and that's good and well and fine. But a lot of us, your core community, are backing both because we want your product and because we've chosen to believe and invest in you. That's where the conversation has to start. So with that context, what do I expect from you, the publisher? First and foremost, I expect communication. Period. No exceptions, no ifs, ands, or buts, no excuses. I now expect a shareholders meeting. I expect you, in some way or form, to communicate with me how things are going, what's being developed, what's the percentage of things that are done. I expect you to let me know. Not every challenge and struggle, because I know the audience would go crazy and think everything's off the rails if that's the case. But I want artwork, graphic design updates, lore, flavor text, just a touch base. I want to establish a form of communication that allows me, if I need to check in. And I'll promise you, most of us will never read that email. We'll never check in for those updates, because as long as they're there, I'm okay. I know that you're on the other end of that email, working to make the game you promised. That you're still there, pushing hard, trying to develop. It's when that act of communication, when those updates stop, is when I start to get this little inkling of worry. I start to think, how is the business going? How is the game's development? Has production stopped? Has money and funds run out? What have you done with my investment? Am I ever getting the thing that I was promised? And most of the time I am, but is it going to be the same thing that I signed up for? How has the game changed? How has production choices impacted the cost of everything? And then I hear about things like the shipping crisis, and I ask myself, well, I've backed 100 plus games currently. Where are they all? What's the extra cost? Which ones aren't going to be showing up? Which ones are trying right now to figure out how to run another Kickstarter or fund another $100,000 because they don't have what they need to sign for the crates or the boats or to deliver games? Which ones am I going to ping me with an email asking for $3 more that I might miss? I don't know. It's definitely not every single one of the ones I have backed. It's probably less than half of them by far. So, I expect communication. I expect 12 emails a year, monthly communication from you, the Kickstarter creator. And if I don't get that, I better have a good reason why, or I think I have a right to start getting a little frustrated. I think it makes sense for me to start getting concerned. I think following up and sending pings kindly, not aggressively, but just checking in, I think that's deserved. If you're not communicating with me, I need to start communicating with you that I'm unsatisfied with what's happening, that I am concerned and frustrated that you're misusing my investment, that your lack of communication is having an impact upon whether or not I'm going to invest in you again. It's just the case. You see, designing a game and running a business, which is what you have after you run a successful Kickstarter, are two very different things. And so I believe that many people overlook the nuance of those details. I believe that they completely become blind to the fact that they don't need to send updates or people just trust them with the money. And I also believe, as an artist, that you get overwhelmed and you shut down and you get burnt out. I'm sorry. Even when you're burnt out, you should be communicating. It's not always easy. I have certainly not done that every single month of the year on Patreon. With my own community that supports me, I have certainly not done that perfectly here on YouTube. And I'm learning that along the way. And guess what? I've had people drop pledges, send messages, follow up both through email and text saying, hey, I signed up to hear from you. And I didn't get as much of that as I wanted. And I thought that's fair. And I'm doing as well as I can, and I'm doing better. And I expect that from the publisher. If you haven't been communicating to this point, start. If you're running a project right now or soon, and you don't have a plan for effective communication over the course of the next 12 months after your project launches, do it. Because we'll give you a lot of grace as a community for extra shipping charges or for delays and holds if we know that you care. If we know you're concerned about us, that you're still answering to us, that you're still trying to get the project into our hands, we'll give you a lot of grace in this space. After all, we want your game. You've got us by the bootstraps. It's the biggest secret that you're ignoring. We're your fans. We're excited about your title. We're invested in you. We're easy to keep happy as long as you tell us the truth and talk to us. So, what else do I expect? I expect an explanation of two important factors. I expect an explanation of price change. If you quoted me something on the page, and I signed up for that, and I've already closed the Pledge Manager, or prices have changed when I go into the Pledge Manager. That could be shipping, that could be the cost of a base game, that could be extra nuanced components, add-ons, whatever it is. I expect to know why. Because that's not what you promised me on the Kickstarter page. Now, if you on the Kickstarter page put in a caveat that MSRP was $120, you can get it now for $105 on Kickstarter, great. We don't need to have a conversation about that. Maybe a reminder's fine, but I'm not too concerned about that. If you can point me to where you shared the information. If on shipping, you added a little caveat saying, hey, by the way, shipping prices may fluctuate eventually, I kind of want an explanation. Because while I, Jesse Anderson, Quackalope, I understand how challenging the current day and age is. I understand that freight costs went from $3,000 for a container to $30,000 for a container. I understand you're bidding and competing against a traffic jam that big retail stores like Walmart are buying up. I get all that. It doesn't mean that you haven't breached some degree of trust by pulling the rug out from under me. You see, I did invest in your dream. But while Kickstarter disseminates the risk across a vast majority of people, the risk is and was still yours to take. It's not my fault that shipping prices went up. And the cost of living has gone up as well. It's not my fault that you're not making money on your first Kickstarter. That information is out there, and maybe you should have found it. It's not my fault that you delayed an extra 6 months or an extra 2 years creating and designing your artistic expression. I'm patient. I'm waiting for you. Like, that's great. I can't wait to see what you came up with. But that's not my fault. I invested in your timeline. I invested in your price. I invested in you. I will give you a lot of grace. I will. But when it comes to two things, delays and price, I need an explanation. I feel like I'm owed one. I didn't sign up to give you more than I already did. I'm happy to. If you need it, I and the rest of the community will gladly chip in a couple extra dollars if we have it to make sure you can finish this project. I still want your game. But if shipping is an extra 100%, I would like to know why. Where are your numbers coming from? What are they tied to? And if you can show me that, amazing. That's great. Argument over. That's all I need. I just want to understand where the added cost for things like freight or the added cost for UPS or what the projections are related to, or are you printing the tickets right now, like locking into a price point right now that allows you to ship them to me the moment they come into port? But I don't know that as a consumer. All I see is that it's way more expensive. I need to know if the cost of paper has gone up 75% and most of your components are made out of cardboard, which is a derivative of paper, and honestly, for you, the game margin is now -10. I need to know. I'm glad to chip in an extra $5 to help print this big box monstrosity full of paper and cardboard, and I feel bad for you that China and the manufacturing industry that we have right now is charging you an astronomical price for the cost of the cardboard that you need to purchase to make your game. Great. I'm on board. You showed me the numbers, you gave me the details, you explained it to the best of your ability, and honestly, it's probably above all of our heads, but you tried to communicate to me. What I'm not okay with is silence. I think that's a breach of the relationship. I think that hurts what we have going on here. And the same is true for delays. A month, here or there, sure. Everyone knows Kickstarter is going to be shifted in one way or another. You don't have to explain yourself to me if you arrive a little bit late to the party, but if you don't show up to the party, and when you do show up, you didn't even bring the wine that we ordered, that's an issue, right? I order Grubhub and half the food's eaten before it arrives. We're going to have a conversation about that. Because here's the thing. Delays are also totally understandable. Hey, our team took an extra 3 months that wasn't expected. My wife just had a baby, and honestly, it's really thrown off my productivity for a couple months. Cool, awesome, great. Congratulations on the newborn. Honestly, take a week or two to just settle as a family, and then get back to work. Like, I still want my game. Hey, China just shut down. Shanghai just closed the borders. Here's 17 articles. You can read about it. I'm not sure when mass production's going to start. Okay. We can have a conversation about that. That's out of your control. That's understandable. But I need to know. I need to understand. When it comes to delays, when it comes to shifting timelines, when it comes to extra pricing, extra cost, I think I deserve to know why my investment's being stagnated, being changed, being asked for more. I expect you to follow through. I ultimately expect your game to arrive. I expect you to be truthful, to not hedge your bets, to not twist or turn, to not launch another project with the expectation that you're going to be able to sneakily fund the one that you had. Good business means that you paid yourself some type of salary for the work that you're doing, and then you set some money off to the side for running the company, for delivering the game. It means that you get access to the funds that you need some other way than asking more people to trust you, because that's a cycle that'll continue to consume itself. And I think most companies that launch new projects while the other projects in production do so in a responsible fashion. I also think enough do so in an irresponsible manner. They merge funds and blur lines in a way that's not what I invested in, that someone's going to end up holding the egg at the end of the day. I think you need to make sure that I know you're not doing that, especially if you're relaunching another campaign before the one I backed has delivered. I guess ultimately, the moral of this story, the end of this conversation, is this. I invested in you. As a consumer, as a buyer, as a customer, but also as a partner. I did so with my finances. I did so with my emotions. I did so with my empathy. I advocated for my friends to support you as well, because I wanted more stretch goals. I trusted you to spend a year or two developing and bringing a game to the table that I would love, and that my family would love, and that my friends would love, and I can't wait to play it. Now you have a business. And you have partners. And running a business and running partners, communicating with partners, is a very different skill set than it is designing a successful board game. But now that we're at this stage, I have some demands and expectations. And if those aren't met, I think I'm allowed to be upset. I think the community is. If you come to me as a publisher and you say, I don't understand why they're angry, and the community says, well, they didn't communicate for 6 months. Great. I'll show you why. The price of shipping went up by 80% and they didn't explain themselves at all. Great. I'll show you why they're angry. The game showed up in retail before Kickstarter backers got it. Oh, fantastic. I'll show you why they're angry. It really is reasonable to expect you to treat us with respect. As partners. As people who've invested in you. So, that's the conversation. That's what I expect from publishers. That's why I think it's fair to be pissed off sometimes. And I don't think you should go harass or lambast or be cruel to anyone. Don't act with malice. Don't be mean. Just be informed. Know whether or not the person you're supporting has done what is expected. Have they been honest about pricing? Have they communicated about delays? Have they continually and constantly kept people informed? Have they respected you and the other projects they've launched? And ultimately, have they delivered a quality product on time to you? Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. See you next time. Thank you.